Hey guys, a common question we get from our clients is how do you tell what content is doing well on your website? Specifically, you put a lot of effort into writing blogs. Are people really using it? Let's find out how to report on that. There's a couple ways to do it. So if you notice in your GA4 reporting, if you go to reports, you can go to engagement, pages and screens. And so these are the pages on your website that are getting clicks and visits, and there is a content grouping available. But if you notice, by default, it is blank, not set. That's because what you have to do is tell Google what your content groupings are. And there's a couple ways to do this. So we're going to show you how to do this and then how to build a Looker Studio dashboard that pulls in this data. So there's a couple ways to do it in Looker. You can either do filtering or you can do it where you're actually adding the data to GA4. And the ideal way to do this is using Google Tag Manager and using data layers, where you have a developer actually, in the data layer, send a JavaScript that says, hey, this is this type of content. Now, we don't have this on this site, and many of you aren't going to have it on your site, so we're going to show you a way to do it in Google Tag Manager that will start populating this data for you. Okay, so in Google Tag Manager, we're going to create a new variable. And we'll go down here, and you can see we already have one here, but we're going to recreate it for you. So in this variable, we're going to name it, in this case, group 2, since we already have one. And we're going to use a regex or regex, depending on how you like to pronounce it. So in this case, it's a regex. We're going to select page path. You can also do page URL. So in this case, we're going to do page path. And then we're going to add rows for the content groupings that we want. So in this case, for the Remain Eternal website, we know that they have a blog that is called, let's look at what it's called here. Here's the blogs. All right, and the path of the blog has blogs in it. So it's a keyword that we can pull out. So we can do blogs. And then whatever you want to call it in your reporting. So in this case, we'd call it blogs. Now, we can also set a default value for other, and that way whatever other type of URLs show up, you can report on that. If there were other types of blogs here or other type of content, we could do that here. And actually, we want to add that since it's part of the path. Because it has various renderings of the URL, we don't want full matches only because we want anything that comes after that, and then we don't want to do that. All right, so now we're going to pull anything from the blogs. If they had something else, like say news or something like that, we could do that here. So you get the idea. So we're pulling this from the path. Now, you could also, if you're using the URL, look for words that occur in the URL, and I'll show you why you might need to do that in a second. So we're going to save this, the content group, and now under tags, we're going to go to the main configuration tag for GA4. And if you haven't seen this before, it's a relatively new tag that Google added that now is the main implementation tag. And under this, you have the ability to set different parameters. And so you can see up here, we already did this, but I'll do it again just to show you. So content group is the preferred name that Google uses so that way it shows up in the dashboard. And then you just put your content variable in here. So in this case, it is the one that we made, but this is the one that we did before, but the one we just did is content group 2, okay? And then we would save that. I'm not going to save that right now. Save this. And then we can preview it here. Take a look at Remain Eternal. And just make sure that that's firing okay. So we're going to go down to blogs. Click on a blog. You can see it has blogs in here. So let's go up here. We're going to continue. Let's see if it, yeah, So you can see in here where it fired both the content group and the second one that I just created, looking for blogs in the string. So, so that is going to show up correctly in your reporting eventually. Now you're going to need to wait 24 to 48 hours for that to start showing up and having people clicking on it. All right, but we're not done there. So once you've seen that the preview is working correctly, you would go to submit, put in what you did. In this case, content group variable. And then you would publish it. And then that pushes that live to your site. The one situation where you may want to test using instead of the custom, the variable, using the path, you might want to use URL. So let's take a look at this. All right, and the reason for that is if you look at like a site, like our site, Apotheca's website, the blogs don't have a folder for blog in the path. So they just go directly to the article and slug, the article name. So there's not a path to pull it from. You're going to be looking for keywords that you can pull from the URL. So you would look for, so say we do videos and articles on SEO, we do it on PPC, we do Looker Studio, lots of different kinds of stuff like that. So if we want to see who's engaging and working or using that content, we would need to try to pull that from the URL string. This is where, again, if you can do it through the data layer, it's much better because you could have it say blogs in the data layer and you wouldn't have to worry about trying to pull these URLs because it's not always going to work. The URLs are not always going to have the keyword in it that you want, or maybe it's even a different page on your site that happens to have that keyword in it. So it's not going to be completely accurate. You're much better off if you do have the path have a content directory or a directory that points to the type of content that you want to start reporting on. But that's how you do that and set that up in Google Tag Manager. Now we can create a Looker Studio dashboard without that. And so what we're able to do because of the way this website is structured, we can see that there's a blogs folder in the URL. And so we can use that to filter in Looker Studio. Now, where that won't work very well is if we go to a site like ours and go to blog, there is a blog website, but if you go to the individual pages, there is no category for a folder for blogs. So it's much more difficult to just report on blogs. We'd have to look for specific keywords or something like that. So again, SEO, that kind of stuff. But that's not going to be perfect because there might be those keywords in other non-blog pages. So ideally, if you have a website like this one, where you have these folders in the path and then URL, you'll be able to pull those out, which you will see shortly as we start building this. So let's go into Looker Studio and see how we would build a dashboard to report on blogs. So we're going to start out with blank. And we're going to choose our analytics. We're going to choose this. Okay. All right, now that starts out with their default table, which we're actually just going to keep it and change the elements because we are going to do a table here. So instead of event name, we're going to do page title. There we go, page title. All right, so now we want views. Another metric we would probably want is users. Let's do total users. We're gonna want bounce rate. Engagement rate is kind of repetitive, but we might look at that. So engagement rate, okay. So now this is showing all of the pages. So what do we do here? Well, we're gonna create a filter. And so we know that that filter, we're going to call this blogs, and we're going to say the page URL contains blog. Let's just double check that, blogs with an S. blogs. And as you can see, that starts to now filter this table with just the data for blogs that we want. And you can see they have different language versions there. And so that's how we do that. Now I'm gonna stylize this just a little bit just because I don't like the page numbers, or the row numbers rather. I don't need to show pagination on this one. Okay, so that's that. We could go through and stylize this more, but for this video, I'm not gonna do that. So now what are some other metrics that we wanna look at? So let's look at some scorecards, okay? So obviously we wanna look at things like views. So views is good. Let's style this a little bit. We'll make it a little bit larger and easier to read. Okay. And let's give it, we'll use compact numbers. Let's give it a border. Okay. Oh. Border's white. There we go. So now we have that, just a very simple one. We're going to duplicate this. And then we're going to highlight these, duplicate those just to make this faster. By the way, we do have a video that we did on quick hacks for Looker Studio, just to make things like this easier, where you can lay out things. So check that out. I'll put the link in the description. All right, so obviously we don't want views for each of these, but we do want users. Some of the same data that we have down there that is by page, but now we want it overall for the blog, okay? And again, these are for the entire site right now. So let's look at bounce rate. Maybe sessions. And let's do one for engagement. And it's taking a while. All right, so now we've already set up that filter. So we can add this filter and just go through and apply it to all of these. Now, I could have done this when I was duplicating them, but I didn't think about it. So when you're duplicating, before you duplicate them, set the filters that you want, and it will save you this extra step. So I'm just going through and adding this filter to each of these. So this is going to be views of anything with a blog in the URL total, same with users, bounce rate, and whatnot. So this is starting to now be a dashboard for just your blog section, right? So you can start to see how people are behaving and how they're bouncing and engaging in that. We could also look at things like, you know, total number of pages and that kind of stuff. All right, so not an attractive dashboard yet, but that's not why we're doing this. We're just looking at how to build this for the data. Now, another thing that would be interesting here is let's take a look at rankings for the data. So let's add another chart. We'll do another table. And we'll see how some of these pages are ranking. So we're going to change this. We're going to do Search Console. I don't have it in here yet, so we're going to go here to Search Console, remain eternal. All right, and so we're going to look at landing page. And so these are the pages. And we're going to look at average position. Let's look at impressions as well. And clicks.
I do it.
Okay. Now, same filter concept goes here. So we're going to add a filter. So we're going to create a different filter for this one. So I'm going to add a filter, create filter. All right, and so the landing page contains blogs. And much like the other page, now we have a view of the blogs and how they're ranking. So I'm also going to get rid of the numbers on this. There we go. And so now we have those blogs, their average position, the impressions that they're getting, and their URL clicks. So we can then start to look at how not only how people are engaging with the content, but also how they're finding it. So are they coming from organic? Now we can do this also, we can add a section in here to show what marketing channels people are coming from. And so I'm going to move these across just for the sake of space. This wouldn't necessarily be how I might add, like, for instance, another page to this if I was doing this for a client. But I'm going to make another table here. All right, so we've got full page URL, total users. Can we look at views? Views. And does this still have the blog filter? Okay, so we've got that. Now let's look to see if we can add medium. All right, so we've got the URL, we've got the various metrics. This likes the first user for some reason. So let's look at first user, source, medium. Okay, and now we have a table that looks at the blogs and where they came from. So, and then how many people came from that source and medium. So, so you see like Google Organic, Facebook, and whatnot. So you can start to see where they're coming from as well. So this is organic entirely because it's coming from Google Search Console. And this is the other channels, whether they're coming from marketing programs, campaigns, or your organic social media, that type of thing. So first user is slightly different because it's only looking at the first interaction. So what did they first click on when they came to your site? So we wouldn't usually look at that for marketing programs, but for content on the website, I think it's fine because it doesn't consider all the other interactions that people may have had down the line. It's just giving credit to, like, for instance, organic for that first click on the page. All right, so this is a quick and easy dashboard, albeit an unattractive one. We have other videos where we've talked about making other types of dashboards where we use controls like date drop downs and stuff like that. I'll put a link to those as well in the description. But this gives you an idea of the type of thing that you can start to build out if you're looking for information about your blog, and if you haven't set up the content types in GA4 or in Google Tag Manager, and if you don't have a data layer on the site. So like I said, this is only going to work if it's clear that there's certain content types based on the URL keywords, and that, you know, you can look at the blog specifically, or if you have other content on your site. So on our site, it wouldn't work out this way without adding that data via Tag Manager. So I hope this was helpful. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments. We try to get back to you on those. If you need help with your analytics, with your marketing, or creating dashboards for your company, please let us know. We'd be happy to help you. And I also am going to put a link in the description where you can set up a 30-minute consultation for free with me, and we can talk about your needs. So have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.